declare his praise. For who can? He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. Every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. So open up the gate. The God who comes to save is here to set the captives free. For who can stop the Lord Almighty? Our God is the Lion of Judah. Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. And every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains, and every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. Who can stop the Lord Almighty? 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 Who can stop the Lord? Our God is the Lion of Judah. He's roaring with power and fighting our battles. And every knee will bow before him. Our God is the Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world. His blood breaks the chains. Every knee will bow before the Lion and the Lamb. Every knee will bow before him. The darkness we were waiting without hope and without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes to fulfill the law and prophets. To a virgin came the word from a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three Jesus, for our sake you died. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. In the morning that you rose, all of heaven held its breath, till that stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death. And the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who come to the Father are restored. And the church of Christ was born, then the Spirit lit the flame. Now this gospel truth of old shall not kneel, it shall not fade. By his blood and in his name, in his freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Praise forever to the King of Kings.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the opportunity to come together and worship you. Please help the speaker, and please just fill this room with your presence. And in your name I pray. Amen.
All right, guys, thank our praise team once again, please. All right, as you know, this week is our panel, so I'd like to invite back up to the stage Pastor Kukin. And we have Miss Johnson today, Miss Blackledge, Mr. Lynn, and Mr. Robinson. If they would all come up here, please. Yeah, you can clap for them. Absolutely. Okay. Are we all settled? Well, hi, guys. Remember 2 weeks ago, Pastor Kukin came and spoke to us about friendships. And then last week, you discussed the questions he left for us and came up with some more questions for our panel. So I'm going to start with Connor Gorley, right in front of me.
How do you share the gospel to your unbelieving friends without them not being your friend again?
Is anyone? Well, I guess we can all speak at any time. Okay, all right. Yes, we'll popcorn it. All right, great question. And I think, number one, it's encouraging if you have non-Christian friends, because if you're a Christian, you should have unbelieving friends who you're seeking to share the love of Christ with. So I would just say, number one, you need to be praying for them. I think an important part of the Christian life is regularly praying for people in your life who don't know the Lord. So I think, number one, just pray regularly for them. Two is, as a Christian, you can always share what God's doing in your life. And so saying like, hey, you know I'm a Christian, I'm a follower of Jesus. Here's something that God's teaching me. Or here's something that's important that I learned at church. Or here's something that God is doing that I'm really excited about. So I think just sharing naturally about how God's at work in your life can be good. And then also, like, one of the easiest ways to share your faith is just to invite them to things and to say, hey, like, would you want to come to church with me? I know my wife, Cooper's mom, she was invited to youth group about 100 times by a friend in high school before she finally went and heard the gospel and believed. So sometimes you got to invite people a lot. But I think doing it in a natural way, not beating them over the head with it, but just, sharing like that.
I'm going to piggyback on that. I think praying is a great place to start. I know we're all looking at you, Connor, but I think praying for them is intentional, right? It's then I'm making a choice that they matter to me, and it's not that like I'm going to their house, I'm laying hands on their mailbox, I'm doing like something weird, but like in my time with the Lord, that this person comes to my mind, like there's someone coming to my mind that I think about, that I really care about them. The other thing I would say is, you guys have opportunities. You get to go to cool stuff. All your youth groups, we see, they put on these events or, looking for those opportunities. And I think just a practical thing is when the opportunity arises, maybe you have a way to help out, that you seize those opportunities. They're not always going to be convenient. They're going to maybe come at a time when you're busy. You have other things. But taking advantage of an opportunity to serve them in whatever way that looks like. Again, like people are coming to my mind, and the way that I might serve a friend with a meal may look different than the way that you would. But practically, when I show up in moments of need, and then that may open up a conversation, but I led by prayer in my own heart and then actions. And I think that, serving doesn't come natural. That's going to stand out when people are like, well, why would you do that? Why would you show up with that? Hey, I noticed you came when I was performing at this, or, like looking for ways to serve them, to love them, for them to know that you see them. I think those speak, even when you're not maybe, sliding a Bible verse in these inconspicuous spots. Not that those aren't, God may lead you. I'm just saying, like, looking for those really practical ways of loving well.
And I'll add to that, too, like kind of what Ms. Johnson said. Living in a way that makes them ask questions, right? Like when your reactions to things are different than the way the world reacts, they're going to ask questions. Like, why would you say it that way? Or why would that be your viewpoint? Or why would you look at it that way? And that opens doors, right? When you're just living on mission, when you're just living scripturally with that biblical worldview, when you're reacting to things scripturally through prayer instead of the way the rest of the world, they're going to notice and they're going to ask questions, and that opens doors for you to go, well, actually, this is why, right? So living in a way that makes them ask questions is going to help you.
Being the fourth person to answer, it's probably nothing new, but something that we've been taught, Riley and I, as we're preparing to go, to do this, kind of like for a living. But something we've been told to do is share early and share often. When you make a friend, when you meet a stranger, one of the first things, if not the first thing they should know about you, is that you're a follower of Christ. It shouldn't come as a surprise 1 year into the relationship. Oh, hey, by the way, I'm a Christian, and this is what that means. Like, let that be one of the first things they learn about you, so that they're not caught off guard when you tell them, I go to church, this is what I learned, this is what this is how I'm dealing with trials in my life. I think one of the most harmful things we can do when we're trying to share the gospel with our friends who aren't believers is waiting too long. Because if it's truly important to us, we talk about what's important to us. And if we wait and wait and wait, it's just more likely not going to happen. And then, just imagining this. Imagine you've got a friend you've been friends with for years, unbeliever, and you wait 5 years into the friendship to share the gospel, and they believe. And they ask you, why didn't you tell me earlier? Why'd you wait 5 years to tell me this good news? So I don't know, just a couple things that are on my mind.
Mine's brief if you want to go ahead to the next person, but I think one way to not make them too defensive is when you first talk about it, make it, this is what I believe and why, and not, this is what you should believe and why. Now, the second thing's true, But if you open that way, it's unlikely they're going to be very receptive to it. So starting with, this is what I believe and what I've experienced, is a good way to start.
Ansley Herring.
How do you as teachers deal with friendships in middle school?
Did you guys mean our friendships with each other or how we deal with the friendships we see out there?
We were all friends together in middle school.
Oh. Okay.
I guess I don't. I don't feel like I have much to say, but
I was going to say, I'm glad I'm not up there. I don't remember middle school.
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Like, I wasn't the guy that had like a ton of friends. I wasn't the popular, always at lunch with the 50 people around me, right? But I had a close group of a few friends, and I would trade that for the 50 shallow friends any day. You know, having a couple friends who you can really trust, who will really help you, who are there for you. I don't know, that my experience, gosh, yeah, thinking back to middle school, I also wasn't like, I was a believer in middle school, but I didn't have, well, that's a different story, I guess. But yeah, I'll go back to what I said first. I had a few good friends that I could trust, and I think I'm going to say more about this in a future question, so I'll kind of stop there. But yeah, don't try to be like the popular kid who has friends with everyone. You can be friendly to everyone, but that doesn't mean you have to be best friends with everyone.
I'll go. I do remember middle school. I actually really loved middle school. I'm going to be totally honest. I really did. I had a few good friends. Some of them I'm still friends with. And so a couple things come to mind because I'm looking backwards. I'm not living in it. But I was trying to find who I was and then find friends that were authentic to that, right? And it is messy. I couldn't have told you now that some of those friends I would still be close to. There's others of them, I couldn't remember their names. If you really asked me and you put their face there, I'd struggle. So some of them didn't have a long-term impact, but some did. And so, and I could think if, this is not the place and time, but there are a few really impactful moments from two of those friends that come to mind in particular, that honestly, some of the ways that they were encouraging my walk with Christ impacted me for 10 to 15 years. And like they come to my mind. I can see where I was. I can see, who I was with. I will say that because I was in middle school and life looked very different, my parents did allow me to spend a lot of time with friends that they trusted, right? And so, who I was trusting and who was giving my time and who I was investing in, they were investing in me back and forth. Not that things were perfect and we didn't, make some mistakes together, but I think that there was a lot of trust that was being built in middle school in those relationships. And I think that gossip, if I had a thing that I think, especially coming from a female perspective, can really damage relationships in middle school that could have value if you were to invest wisely. So I feel like I'm a little scattered in my response because there's so much I feel like I could say and I'm trying to choose wisely in what to say. But I think I would say that your friendships in middle school have potential to be very impactful. How you interact in those friendships may determine that. How you are growing, how you are choosing to be responsible. Are you owning some of your own stuff? Are you growing in your relationship with the Lord? I think middle school is meant to be messy because growing looks like that, right? If I'm truly growing, I'm making mistakes, and that's part of how I learn. But you can find some really good friendships, and being a good friend is where you start.
I would say about middle school, I think looking back, especially on 7th and 8th grade, I was far too worried about relationships with girls than with just building friendships with the guys, because everyone was starting to date, and I dated Susan Dykehouse for the entire 7th grade year, and she was very cute. And I wish I hadn't. But anyway, I remember all of us guys were worried about who they were going to date, and I wish I had just worried about building solid friendships with guy friends. And I think learning how to be a friend and how to have others be your friend is far more important than a dating relationship. So prioritize relationships, even if it's the opposite sex. You need to learn how to be friends with the opposite sex. That will serve you far better than worrying about who you're dating or whatever you call it these days.
I had 3 really close friends through middle school and high school. And for those of you who don't know, I went here at Gaston Christian for middle school and high school. And so, I mean, we would hang out often through the week. We'd spend the night at each other's houses. We'd go hiking. We'd throw the football. We'd play baseball in the backyard, things like that. Also, plenty of Smash Brothers, because that's important. But we also tried to be, the 4 of us tried to be ones that the guys who didn't really have a group could hang out with. And I think part of the reason for that was because the school I'd gone to before Gaston Christian, it was not that people were vastly unkind to me. I just wasn't able to find real close friends there. So I felt like more of the loner there. So I tried to reach out to the loners here. But one time I had to stand up to my friends was there was a kid named Van, and I mean his name probably tells you how popular he was. But they were making fun of him one afternoon in Carline, and I said to my closest friend, I was like, if we say we're Christians and we're supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves, how can you treat him that way? And let's just say that the classroom we usually hung out in after Carline, the door was closed and my book bag was outside it after that happened. But it was worth it because it was, I mean, we stayed friends after that. We worked through that, but that was a time I stood up to my friend about not being kind to others. And that's also a part of friendship, is being willing to say, we both say we're following Jesus, but what you just did wasn't that. And being able to receive it when your friend tells you the same. So that's another important part of friendship in middle school and beyond.
All right, my next question is Hank McCotter. And as I walk to him, I want to ask you guys, everyone sit straight up. The back of your seat is not a headrest, okay? All right, everyone sit up. Thank you. I felt like Hank had a very practical question, and if we were to ask Miss Bachman, she probably hears this question a lot. Hank.
What should we do if we have a friend who dislikes someone that you're friends with?
I do wish we could give you a mic, Miss Bachman. I bet you could answer that really well.
Well, Hank, here's what I would say. I think I would probably evaluate both friends. And I would evaluate kind of my relationship with both friends because, like, for instance, my husband's my best friend, right? Or one of my best friends. And if you don't like my husband, we're probably not going to get along. Like, that's probably not going to work out for us, right? Because he's very important to me. And my relationship with him is very important to me. So if this is a friend that I truly have a connection with and I think is a good friend for me, right? They love me. They have my best interest at heart. They push me closer to God. And somebody doesn't like them, then I'm going to have to evaluate my connection with that person, right? You don't have to always... What I was going to say about middle school is that's one of the first places I started to learn about shifting friend groups, right? That there are friends that I'm with because we're in the same classes and we have a good time and we talk all the time, but I see them in that setting. And then there are friends that are friends everywhere, that we're friends, we're good friends. And so that friendship, I would evaluate those 2 friends and decide which one's my good friend and which one's my shifting friendship, right? This is a circle that I travel in, or this is a circle that I'm in sometimes. When I'm thinking about a friend that doesn't like another friend.
Yeah, Hank, that's a great question, and I think about that spiritually too. If our primary friendship is friendship with Jesus, and someone dislikes our friendship with Jesus, that becomes an issue as well. But I would say that you can't force people to be friends. So if you have 2 friends that don't tend to get along or like each other, you can't force them to do that, to enjoy that. But you have to. Someone who's a true friend to you will respect that you're friends with that other person and not try to pull you away. And I think if you see any signs of someone trying to control you by saying, hey, like, forget about him, like, no one likes him, then you're like, okay, you're not, that's a sign of someone who's not being a true friend to you. So I think that's good advice of just evaluating friendships, but you shouldn't let one person dictate, who your friends are. You really need to be, saying, Lord, what relationships do you want me to invest in most? Because we only have so much time to invest in so many relationships, and that's where you just got to be prayerful and seek God's wisdom. That's a great question.
It is a great question. I tried to think about, and I don't know details, which I think some of that would determine how you would respond. But I try to think from that, maybe from a middle school perspective, that a key point there, I think, is insecurity that we all have, right? It doesn't go away just because I leave middle school. But sometimes within friends, and I see this, even with my own kids, I was thinking of an example for one of my older daughters, where she's like, oh, but when I'm with them, they don't really want to go to the game if I'm going with that person, like just in a very practical way. And it's like, okay, well, why? And sometimes, and you guys probably know this, like sometimes you have friends that for you, that like you might be their person there, and they feel most comfortable with you. But maybe you're maturing and realizing that like you've got other friendships too. And we're all growing at different places, and that's the beauty of middle school, is that all of us are at a different, we're all in this process of growing. And so I think just recognizing that, which in middle school, I don't know if you have yet. Like you said, like kind of in elementary, everybody's just friends. It's like you go down the playground and who wants to be on the swings? Who wants to kick the soccer ball? Like I think those friendships look a lot more linear, if you will. Whereas like Rachel's saying, there's kind of this shifting. And like maybe some of that is just the perspective we have, that we saw that that's where that started to happen. But often I feel like in middle school, because it's the first time it might be happening, sometimes you're like, oh gosh, what's going on? How do I do with that? Because it feels like, wait, how do I be friends with these different people? And recognizing that sometimes some of our insecurities of feeling like if someone's only willing to be friends with just me, and they're not willing to be friends if I have other friends, that's kind of a sign that there's some growth that needs to happen. And maybe I'm actually that person. Maybe I'm the one that's like, I'm only okay if I get this person all to myself. But maturity says that I can be friends with Miss Blackledge, and she can be friends with Miss Patton. And Miss Patton is, like, do you see, like, there, and maybe, like, I could say I'm going to use Miss Blackledge, we both really love books, right? We've texted about it today. Like, we really like books. You know what? But she likes Ohio State. We're not going to be friends about football. Okay? Like, but she might have a friend.
Who would root for a duck?
Quack, quack. So,
Oregon.
like, there's just
Ms.
these
Bachman, can you
things.
come up and please talk to these two?
Do you kind of see what I'm saying? Like, it's okay, and I'm okay that she has other friends besides me, but where we connect is on, so I didn't take a spiritual route on this. I really was kind of thinking really practical, but I see it in my house. So I hear these same questions that come my way from little people that matter to me, and I see them trying to walk that out. And sometimes it's just learning that we're all growing and how I can still be a good friend to both, and I'm not trash talking one when I'm with another. Like I can grow in that too. So anyway, Ms.
All
Bachman.
right. Jana McCauley.
How can we separate ourselves from friends that are leading us away from God?
I think it may depend on in what way you feel like leading away from God. If it's that they are causing you to do activities or things that are truly wrong and bad for you and sinful, then I think it would be to just withdraw from those friends or tell them, I can't do this with you. If you want to do these things with me, that's great. Because like Pastor Kukin said, we can certainly still be friends with people who aren't believers. Though admittedly, there are times you'll have friends who claim to be believers and may be, who are also leading you astray because they are in sin for whatever reason. So one way may be to, if it's about activities and actions, just make sure you draw a line and communicate that with those people. You tell them, this I won't do with you. That's not something I'm willing to do or something I think is okay to do. But I'm still happy to be your friend this way. Because that at least gives them an opportunity to see that you are not rejecting them, but you're rejecting a certain activity or action. So that'd be one piece of advice I'd give.
Yeah, and you'll be able to tell a lot from how they respond to that conversation. If you say, hey, I feel like all we're doing is gossiping about other people, or hey, I feel like this thing that you're always saying we should do or watch, like, I'm just not into that. Like, I'm a follower of Christ, or that makes me feel like I'm, falling into temptation or whatever. And then if they say, okay, cool, like, thank you for sharing that with me, then it's like, okay, there's promise there. But if they react badly, then okay. And it's hard to have a breakup conversation with a friend, like, I don't want to be your friend anymore. Like, usually that doesn't go real well. I think usually if you're in a situation where you're like, okay, this is unhealthy, I know they're not responding well, you just can distance yourself in a relationship after being honest, like Mr. Lynn said, and then investing in other friendships and kind of slowly distancing from that. I'm interested if what Ms. Johnson was saying about, like, if you have a friend who's trying to control you, you're their only friend, how do you deal with that if you feel like that's making you uncomfortable?
You asking me personally?
Asking you personally.
And I think a lot of us have been there. I would imagine all of us have. I think that, and I'm going to piggyback these two together, because I think time and boundaries were some things that came together. I think in this one, sometimes, like, if that was me and I have a friend that's really capitalizing on all my time, and I feel like I can't reach outside of that because it feels almost like a backpack I can't ever take off. That sometimes I'm going to think ahead, just again, really practically, be like, I had some plans. I'm going to go do this. Or I have some things this weekend. I'm looking forward to being with you, but I'm creating some space and some boundaries. And I think the other thing is sometimes communication, which is really hard. Acknowledgeably, like, probably feels like the hardest part in middle school, because just to say those words, that conversation of like, I'm noticing there's somebody new, and I really think they could use a friend. Do you mind if I'm going to sit with them this week? And I know some really practical things for even, again, I'm thinking of, I've got older girls, I've got high school girls. They made it through middle school, and they're okay. But for one of them, what this looked like was once a week, she sat with it at a different table. And again, that was like earth-shattering. But it was like, that she was trying and felt like that she never could leave. And so just like, hey, I noticed that this group, I really want to talk to them about, or we have the same fantasy football, or hey, we're going to go do this. And so I was going to chat with them about it. But communicating that and saying like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. It's not because I don't like you, but I'm starting to also let them grow the muscle that they don't need me all the time. So some time and some boundaries. And I think those are hard. But I also think like we're still figuring that out too, right? Like we move within our friendship circles. And sometimes as an adult, if I'm being honest, like sometimes it changes for us. Like I have friends that are connected to things my kids do, and then those things changed. And all of a sudden it felt like I lost a friend, even though what happened was that like our kids are doing different things now. And so, I think we still are learning that in different ways. And it can feel a little messy, but being honest is the hard part. Because the thing I wouldn't want to do would be to just like completely leave that person and then not know. And be like, man, did you, like, I don't know what I did. Yeah. Like that's it. I think we've all probably been on both sides of that, and that feels really icky. I don't know. I feel like I said it.
That's the last part is what I was going to say. Like the worst that we can do, silence and distance without any communication just stirs up bitterness and anger and ick, right? Like the communication is the hard part of either having the guts to go, yeah, I'm not actually going to do that, especially if you are normally just a sitting in the group, going with the flow kind of person. That can be super hard to go, nope, I'm not going to do that, and have to communicate that, articulate that. That's the hard part, but that's also the growth part. Like that's the part that lets you know who the friends are that need to be with you and who do not. But it also keeps even just looser friends, it keeps the connection healthy, right? It keeps, otherwise, if you're leaving and there's no communication, that you're going to destroy things. You're going to cause issues that you didn't mean to cause, right? So the communication is super important. Hard, but important.
I'm going to add a challenge to that, just because we're on that, is face-to-face. I know this is easy, but if you could grow this muscle, it'll serve you in a job. It'll serve you in a marriage. It'll serve you later. Because this there's no emotion as well. So, like, if you could learn to look face to face or walk, right? If the face to face is really hard, take a walk, because then at least I don't have to look at their face. But we're still talking, right? Or the car, right? Like, we're all going the same place. So I would add a caveat: if you're really growing, it's a face to face conversation. Sorry.
I think the question originally was, what do you do when you've got a friend who is like basically leading you astray, right? And what do you do about that? I think part of the process is recognizing that you're being led astray, that you're drifting. And that takes a lot of honesty and self-reflection, evaluation, and maybe other friends who are kind of speaking into your life. Once you realize that, then of course do these things. You guys are probably aware of maybe you call it, maybe it's almost like a parable, like an American parable about the frog in the boiling water. If you just throw a frog into a pot of boiling water, it'll jump out. But if you set a frog in room temp water and then slowly bring it to a boil, it will just die. It won't recognize that it's being boiled alive. And I feel like that's how friendships usually are like this. If someone new came into a friendship that was very dysfunctional and full of just gossip, they would hopefully get into that and say, I don't want to be part of this. I'll get out. But those friends who were doing it have probably been immersed in that for months, if not years, and they've just gotten used to it. So I think, going back to my first part of the answer, honest evaluation of your friends and what do we do when we spend time together? Are we sinning, or are we growing closer to Christ and each other?
Slowly conditioned. We are all being slowly conditioned, I think, away from face-to-face relationships by technology. And so one of the self-reflection things is if you are asking ChatGPT things that you would normally ask another person for advice or for what should I do in this, then you're like, oh, I need a friend. I don't need ChatGPT, because ChatGPT, Meta, whatever, they don't care if you have friends or not. So I think if you find yourself looking to technology for things that a role a friend would normally play in your life, that should be a wake-up call. Like, I need another person. I need friends. It's just really important. And that's something that all of us are already facing. Y'all are going to face it more than we do. So just be aware of that.
Pray for wisdom to let you see when you're doing something you shouldn't. Pray that your friend would have wisdom that they would see they're doing something they shouldn't. Whether they're a believer or not, you can still pray that for them. And pray for courage to stand up about it. Don't forget to pray.
I know we're almost at the end, but I'm going to ask Kyra Tony to stand up. And I think I need a little bit more context, but I think we're leading to this. We're talking about perhaps stepping away from friendships. What if you're the one being, is that what you meant by your question?
That's the question. How can we forgive if we can't forget? If they've messed up or they've done something bad, and then we don't know how to forgive them.
But let me also add to that. We see in middle school sometimes a lot of broken friendships, the shifting, the changing. What if you lose a friend, you're hurt? What do we do then? What did we do in those situations?
Let me clarify the question. The question is, what do we do if we're hurt? And how do we forgive if we can't forget?
Ours are kind of different.
Okay.
So you can go with either one. But I know by being next to Miss Bachman's office, often friendships lead to a lot of hurt. When they end or there's problems within those friendships. But where were you going with yours?
That was my groups question, I guess. But I don't know. I guess it's just if they've done something, if they've talked bad about you, if they've done something bad, and then or they've got people to not like you, then how are you gonna forgive them? And I think one of the questions on our board thing was forgiving people.
Yeah. So let's end on that aspect of it, okay?
One verse that was just on my heart coming here this morning is Proverbs 17:9, and it says, whoever covers an offense seeks love, but he who repeats a matter separates close friends. And to cover an offense means to forgive. And forgiveness is easy to say, it's really hard to do. And a lot of times when you have to forgive someone who sinned against you, it's something you have to do over and over again, like every day. And you say, Lord, help me to forgive them again, remembering how much you've forgiven me for, how much others have forgiven me for, to forgive them. So seek to cover the matter in love. And the idea is if we keep repeating it, keep bringing it up to them, keep bringing it up to ourselves, it separates friends. So forgiveness is hard work. And so that's just one note on forgiveness. If you have a friend for any length of time, of any depth, you will have hurt and you will need to forgive. And you'll need to be forgiven. That's just the reality of friendships. So that's just kind of an initial start. I'll let y'all fill it in.
One thing I've had to learn as an adult especially is that forgiveness is rarely just a one-time decision. Now, there are small things people do that we can't just say, I'll let it go. You're right. I forgive you. But on those bigger hurts, it's often an ongoing decision you have to make. And you have to say, okay, I forgive you. But then the hurt comes back, and you've got to decide again, I'm going to forgive you. And that can also be a time to let prayer be what guides you when the hurt comes up. Another is to remember a parable Jesus told about the person who owed his master $100 million, and then the master forgave it. Then the man went out and found a man who owed him $50, and he threw him in prison for not paying him back. Now, I know our emotions make it feel like what someone did is worth far more than the $50 versus $100 million. I know emotionally, we rightfully feel much bigger than that. But what God has forgiven us for is the size of the sun when we compare what they do to the side of Crowder's Mountain. Is what they did hard and hurtful? Yeah. I'm not saying it's not significant. But one thing that can motivate us to forgive is remember that we've been forgiven. God has forgiven us for far more than we can understand or ever forgive others for, because it will never be as bad to us as what we've done to God. And that can be a helpful perspective to remember in the midst of the hurt that is real and legitimate, but can help deal with how do I move on through this relationship and friendship and forgiveness.
Yeah, I would echo, not to take up time in repeating, but I would, the aspect of prayer, because oftentimes I can't, right? Like the issue is that I can't do that without the help of the Lord. And it's really easy for me to inflate something that someone's done to me and really downplay what I've done. I'm really good at making the things that have happened to me bigger. Not that they don't matter, but, and I have to put that back in that biblical perspective of what Mr. Lynn's sharing. And I think something, again, that's just really practical that I have to talk to myself, right? Forgiveness is a choice that I'm making, but my emotions might not follow that choice. I have to begin again. I have to say, Lord, I need you to help me with this. Sometimes that hurt might be the end of that friendship. Not that I want that, but I could still have forgiveness and that be the end of that relationship. The other thing I would say on the flip side of that are some of my deepest friendships have come by moving through that, by saying, you know what, that really hurt. Man, like, I really felt like you wronged me, and this is, like, really hard for me to get over, right? Like, all of us could probably come to tears if we were to just be like, here you go. Like, we know what that feels like. But that the strength of moving through that with the understanding that, you know what, I've done some awful stuff too. Like, I've totally been the wrong friend too. And so by kind of getting those perspectives together and then realizing that the strength of a relationship after moving through that, right? Like those friendships are gold. When those make it through that and they've been tested and tried, those are places that you're going to fall back on when other life situations happen. That friendship is going to be able to hold you in that. And I think that's a beautiful thing to work. It's worth working through, if that makes sense.
Okay. Guys, help me thank our panel. Thank you, Pastor Kukin, for bringing the message on friendship.